Alright, time to clear this up. I've had a bunch of people in my comments doing an actually and being like, oh, the Pokemon Company owns Pokemon and Nintendo only owns a third of it, so Game Freak could make it for another company or console or something, blah blah blah, and that is not true. Yes, the Pokemon Company manages the Pokemon brand and it is owned by Nintendo, Game Freak, and Creatures. It manages the brand. That does not make it a de facto owner of the brand. All you have to do is look up who owns the Pokemon trademarks, and that's Nintendo. They own the name. They own Pikachu. So I suppose Game Freak can go and make it for another console if they don't use any of the names or imagery or terminology, because those trademarks are Nintendo's. In addition, Nintendo owns a part of both of those other companies. In fact, Creatures used to be Ape Inc., the company that made Earthbound. And if it's true that Game Freak could make Pokemon for another console, then Creatures should be able to make Earthbound for another console. Except it can't, because you can't use NES, you can't use any of the imagery, because those trademarks are Nintendo's. Not to mention, Nintendo still has full publishing rights over any Pokemon IP that comes out in video game format. So what does the Pokemon Company do? Well, it does have a little bit of increased autonomy, which means it could push back against Nintendo's plans, and it can operate independently of Nintendo. And that's important for things like Pokemon Store, non-video game based merchandise. When an IP gets this big, having a company to manage it specifically is not all that weird, because you can't involve Nintendo in every Pokemon decision. It would be too much for Nintendo. But not only does Nintendo own shares in Game Freak and Creature, many of their managing boards are made up of Nintendo employees or ex-Nintendo employees. So yes, Nintendo on paper owns a third of the Pokemon Company. Except not really, that's just what's been said casually, and the Pokemon Company has refused to give actual numbers on who owns what portion of it. But in the end, if you're saying, is Pokemon a Nintendo property? Yes. At the end of the day, if it has Pokemon on it, that trademark is owned by Nintendo. So Nintendo gets final say in how it's used. The Pokemon Company manages it. Pokemon Company has other rights, like copyright right, but the trademark is Nintendo's. And just to show my work, trademark detail, current owner, Nintendo of America. And yes, that's not just video games, that applies to clothing and other merch too. Pokemon is a Nintendo property.